Between 1830 and as close as 1996, thousands of First Nations children were forced to attend residential schools. The goal was to assimilate the native people so that they could not dominate Canada and rid Canada of what they called the native problem. When I say they, I'm speaking of what first started as the Europeans and what became Canadians. At its peak in the early 1930s, it was a government-sponsored, church-run network of 80 schools with an enrollment of over 17,000. My opinion of this event is that it's a horrible part of our history. Children were forcibly taken from their home and brought somewhere where they did not speak their language. Some were abused sexually through what was, in my opinion, a total abuse of power. The children were psychologically abused by being told that who they were was bad and what they wore was indecent. They were made to feel ashamed. The goals of the government were similar to that of Hitler Germany, to annihilate another culture in order to feel superior and to gain control and money. Without the native culture, Canada virtually stole what did not belong to them. The effects of these actions are tremendous. These children grew up with no parents, so they had no idea to be parents themselves, not to mention that they lost their language and could not pass it on to their children, nor speak to the elders that were still alive. They also lost the knowledge of their culture, the stories and the songs used to be passed on for generation and generation. However, I think that the worst integrational impact was the abuse they suffered. People who suffer almost a lifetime of abuse usually come out with some mental instability. They would have needed instant therapy to be able to live happy and productive lives. Not everyone can overcome such mistreatment. I think the children who were abused sexually and physically must have suffered a lifetime of pain. Though the government leaders have apologized and made some amends to the native people, there is still so much more they can do. The government needs to set up a very specific recurring fund for the establishment of several medical facilities for the exclusive use of First Nations people for all medical treatments, whether psychological or physical, because the repercussions of these schools cause such a widespread variety of need. Further, I believe these medical facilities should be run by the First Nations people. Therefore, the government should be making a real effort to go to the First Nation people and to be sure that each and every child has a chance to go to university and succeed. Therefore, free schooling is not enough. The government needs to spend money on special needs education to be on top of all students' needs to ensure what they succeed. They must open their wallets to the First Nations. The Church today should embrace the culture of the First Nations, learn the stories, and use them to begin to open the spirit that is theirs, and not Christian spirit. Have First Nation ceremonies in the church. The church must realize the error they made, and not just ask for forgiveness, but love and embrace the native spirituality as they should have done all those years ago. Every Canadian should be made aware of these atrocities. Many young people, even First Nation students, are not aware of what their ancestors endured. Education is the key. Every school should offer First Nations language courses as an option paid by the government. In this way, all students would be aware of the importance of First Nations. Canadians should take a stance and defend the First Nations people wherever needed. We should have empathy for them and their past, but also pride for being in Canada with such an impressive and diverse culture. As a school here at HSB, we have one day to celebrate the First Nations culture. It seems that when almost half the school is native, we should be celebrating this more often. Since we are fortunate enough to be surrounded by First Nations people, we have no excuse not to be educated on the culture. Thank you and goodbye.